Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, December 14th, 2023, and we start this 6 o'clock hour with the Fox News alert. The House of Representatives yesterday voted to formalize an impeachment inquiry into the current president, Joe Biden.
All right, so President Biden is now one of 6 presidents in U.S. history to face an impeachment inquiry in the House.
And now his son Hunter could be held in contempt of Congress for skipping a closed-door deposition on Capitol Hill yesterday.
That's right. Brooke Singman is here with the latest. Brooke, good morning.
Hey, good morning, you guys. Yeah, this is a huge step for House Republicans who argue that a formal inquiry is the only way to get the White House to actually comply with their investigation. They're accusing President Biden of influence peddling during his time as vice president, and they say they are collecting evidence that shows he was involved in his son's foreign business dealings. But President Biden is writing the whole thing off, saying, quote, instead of doing anything to help make Americans' lives better, they are focused on attacking me with lies. They are choosing to waste time on this baseless political stunt that even Republicans in Congress admit is not supported by facts. Hunter Biden was subpoenaed to testify for a closed-door deposition with Congress just yesterday, but he didn't show up. He did come to Capitol Hill, though, and he held a press conference instead. Watch.
And in the depths of my addiction, I was extremely irresponsible with my finances. But to suggest that is grounds for an impeachment inquiry is beyond the absurd. It's shameless. There is no evidence to support the allegations that my father was financially involved in my business because it did not happen.
And former President Trump calling out the first son for ignoring the House.
Mr. President, should your son have defied the subpoena?
Did you watch Hunter? Did you watch Hunter this morning?
Yeah, so that was actually video of President Biden turning his back on reporters when asked for his reaction to his son's decision. But President Trump, former President Trump, actually reacted to Hunter defying that House subpoena. Watch this.
Did you see Hunter today, right? He went to the wrong place. He went to the Senate instead of the House. Everyone's saying, where's Hunter? See, it always gets, where's Hunter? What a two-tier system of justice we have.
Yeah, and Republicans say they will take those steps to begin to hold Hunter in contempt of Congress as Hunter faces backlash for failing to comply with that subpoena.
You had 2 choices today. You could go in and testify, you can appear and testify, or you go in and you don't testify. There is no third flavor on this ice cream stand. You don't get to go in front of the Senate and literally mock Congress.
So if the House approves a vote to find Hunter in contempt, he could be forced to pay a fine or even serve jail time. Hunter's legal team has already had a busy year. They're fighting 9 federal tax charges in California while they work to dismiss those federal gun charges down in Delaware. Guys.
Hey, Brooke, yesterday at this time, we didn't know whether or not Hunter Biden was actually going to show up. And then we got word, and I'm sure you at Fox News Digital got word as well, he's going to show up. Did anybody know it was going to be a press conference outside, or did we think he was going to go inside the building?
I actually had heard that he was not going to show up and that he actually was going to hold this press conference, which Republicans said was going to be a PR stunt. He would get out there and make his statement. Of course, he had offered to testify publicly. Yeah. He got out there, said, I will testify today publicly, answer all of your legitimate questions. But he basically said, I'm defying this subpoena. Your investigation is illegitimate, and I'm not participating. But Comer and Jordan and all Republicans that are leading this investigation said, you know, every other witness that we called here, that we subpoenaed, has come to testify, has come for these transcribed interviews. Mm-hmm. Comer and Jordan said they would release those transcripts of those interviews, which they have done. And I believe they probably would have released a deposition transcript of Hunter's. But, you know, that wasn't enough for the president's son. And, you know, we'll see what happens here now that that impeachment inquiry is actually formalized.
It was quite a switcheroo.
Yeah, if they gave us more of a heads up, we would have had better audio. But you set up on the other side of it. Real quick, Brooke. Jim Biden, is he going to come? It doesn't seem like, and they seem pretty confident he'll show up, but they asked him to come December 7th, and he has not come.
I think the committee, the House Oversight Committee, is in negotiations with his attorneys to schedule a deposition. Now, I mean, like Republicans had been saying, once this impeachment inquiry was formalized, then they now have more power behind these existing subpoenas. Right. Now they can go to court and actually try to get these subpoenas enforced, because now the whole House has actually voted to formalize the inquiry, and, you know, now we'll see what Republicans do, who they call, who they actually are able to bring in for these interviews, document requests, and we'll see who complies and what happens to them if they don't.
Brooke Sigmund, thanks so much.
Yeah.
So if you're the White House and Hunter Biden, they have this new strategy now that this is all against Hunter Biden's integrity. I don't know what integrity he has. And this is an attempt to go after Joe Biden. But I think it's important for the American people to realize who we're dealing with right now. So he's been sleeping around town, including his dead brother's wife. He won't take care of his kid, Navy. She doesn't even have Secret Service protection. That shows you what the White House thinks of the granddaughter. All the other grandchildren have Secret Service protection. He lied and said that he was doing business all around the world. Meanwhile, he was just paying his prostitutes. So we don't have to attack his integrity. He's been doing it for years. And I think it's important that we have the conversation about privilege because they've been talking about privilege for years now, white privilege and all this. Who gets to do this, lie on a gun form, not pay their taxes for years, sleep around town, including his dead brother's wife, and then go on Capitol Hill on the wrong side and is not held in contempt of Congress? Only Joe Biden's son can get away with something like this.
100%. He does it because he knows he's got the DOJ, the FBI, and the power of the White House protecting him. I really encourage people to watch the whole thing. It was a master class in gaslighting. He claimed
it's only 5 minutes.
Well, it's only 5 minutes. He said that they were impugning his character, his wife, his children. Everything he complained about has been done to the Trump family in spades. And they weren't doing deals with the Chinese, with our arch enemies. So this was absolutely unbelievable. There were also some hilarious moments where he said that the Republicans were mocking his recovery. Well, what recovery? We just found cocaine in the White House, and everybody knows it's his. It went on and on. And again, to your point about the the wife sleeping with the wife of his dead brother. I mean, he's saying my father is so proud of me and I'm the light of his life. I mean, it's just it was unbelievable.
Well, here's the thing about that 5-minute press conference. It was planned, obviously. Abby Lowell let him out. But as it turned out yesterday, our White House correspondent actually discovered that Hunter Biden and his father, the President of the United States, discussed this stunt, apparently, and the statement.
Of course they did.
And it sounds like Joe Biden knew that he was going to not show up, not going to sit down in the chair behind closed doors. Here's our White House correspondent and the White House press secretary. Listen to this.
He said that President Biden was familiar with what his son was going to say on Capitol Hill. If I called my dad and said, I am about to violate a congressional subpoena, he'd probably say, son, you shouldn't do that. Was there any attempt by President Biden to talk Hunter out of it today?
You're going to call your dad Steve?
Call him Dad, usually.
Look, I don't have anything else to add. The president was familiar with what Hunter was going to say today. Look, he's proud of his son. He and the First Lady are proud of his son, how he's rebuilding his life back. He's going to focus on what is needed on the American people.
Some of the things that stand out.
And by the way, Brian, he does call me Dad. He
right.
call me Dad.
So we don't need a second source.
No.
We've got
Is he the light of your life?
I am the primary source.
Right.
I have 3 lights.
And by the way,
and 2 grand lights.
And by the way, there's going to be a Peter Ducey press conference on the other side of Capitol Hill today about Steve.
We'll be watching.
Just real quick, it's all about how it relates to Joe. We know what a screw-up he is, but all how it relates to Joe. My dad never benefited financially from our business practices. What have they found out over the last few weeks? First, Kevin McCarthy says, we're going to do an impeachment inquiry. All right. Because they didn't think they had the votes, a lot of moderates, to really go forward. They didn't think they had enough information. After about a month of looking through this and finding the discovery of what they've been able to probe, even guys in New York looking to hold on to their seats said, I'm aboard. Every Republican voted for this. There was no haranguing. They didn't whip this vote. They just said, we have enough here to move forward. Not saying anything. Right now, they are probing and investigating to find out Joe's role in this. This is, though, he didn't benefit financially, but no one can get past the fact that they didn't have a product except Joe Biden's name, influence, and experience and his contacts. He acts like because he went to Georgetown and went to, was it Harvard, that he is now this international, and Yale, he went to this he's such a sought-after attorney that he had to do deals with Kazakhstan, Romania, the Moscow mayor's wife, as well as China. They're collecting this money. He only paid a fraction of it in taxes still, and we know the big guy was referenced. People have come forward like Tony Bobulinski 2.5 years ago and said Joe was involved. So how can you not want to get more information? It doesn't matter if it results in impeachment. The American voter needs to know who is running for president and what they did. If they knew this in 2020, he wouldn't be in the White House.
This is what's the most important part of what you're saying. In the last election, there was election interference in terms of the suppression of information, the suppression of that laptop, the intelligence community coming out and signing letters saying that this was Russian disinformation. We entered into an election without full information, and that's a crime. And here we are once again. They're trying to imprison the top leading Republican president. They are waging lawfare on him. And now again, they're trying to suppress information ahead of the vote. The American people need to have full information. That is the most important thing.
Rachel, we were talking about this just before the show. This impeachment inquiry resolution actually does not accuse Joe Biden of any wrongdoing, none whatsoever. All it does is authorize these 3 committees to keep looking, and that was to get these 18 Republicans who are in Biden districts on board. And you look at people who know a lot about what's going on, and they're going to be digging for as long as they can.
But don't forget, Steve, that the FBI blocked inquiries with the whistleblowers when they came forward.
The whistleblowers are the MVPs.
They are the MVPs, and they said
far.
That's right.
But Rachel,
anything that led to Joe Biden was blocked by the FBI.
I would say that the 3 people on Capitol Hill who know the most about this deal are James Comer, Jim Jordan, and Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley, the Republican from Iowa, said yesterday he has seen no evidence Joe Biden was involved with Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. He said to CNN, "The facts haven't taken me to that point where I can say that the president's guilty of anything."
Yeah.
So if somebody who's looked at everything
you can't get the evidence if the FBI blocked the investigation.
Right, but the other thing is, but they're doing it.
Power. They're going to be able to get grand jury testimony and stuff like that.
If you don't believe Tony Bobulinski, you're right. If you don't believe that he was actually sitting next to his son when they was haranguing the Chinese business associate, you're right. If you don't believe that he got 10% of the investigation, you're right. Everything is leading towards this. What we found out over the last 2 months is more than we found out over the last 3 years.
I take Hunter Biden at his words, and in his text messages where he says that his father was getting 50% of the money, and that he would never do that to his children. I'm not buying that it's a father's love.
To his daughter.
It's a father's love of money, and that's why Joe Biden is not listening to any of his advisors right now and defending his son.
They're afraid to bring up his son to him because he has a volcanic temper.
Well, now it's game on. The Republicans got the inquiry. Let's see where it goes. All right.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.